What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and recently the creators of South Park have announced a new special going live on October 27th called Into the Panderverse, which is set to tackle the concept of Hollywood studios being obsessed with race and gender swaps. It'll be completely changing the core cast with strong women of color, and some sites are saying what they're doing here is tone deaf and plays into toxic fandom. So let's explore this topic as well as how these weirdos keep proving that what South Park is doing here is so potent. Like how one comic creator is pushing the concept of a trans Superboy. That's a real thing, by the way. There's also news that Marvel's upcoming strong female character blockbuster is tracking to have one of the worst openings for a Marvel movie in history. Anyway, let's begin. When every other property or creator is prone to being attacked by mobs or being cancelled, South Park has stood righteously above everyone in similar fashion to comedians like Dave Chappelle. And what I mean by that is South Park cannot be cancelled because there's nothing deemed too sacred or righteous that it can't tear down, make fun of, or expose. They've even added somewhat new characters to the show, like the new principal, whose entire mission is to push as much diversity and inclusion onto South Park's children. And yeah, he's been there for a few years now, but compared to others, he's still newish, but I love his character, he's great. But unlike other properties like comics, video games, or movies that push nonsense to fulfill quotas, the creators of South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, instead reversed the trends of today, and they're loved because of it. They even made stuff like Team America World Police, which features one of my favorite musical numbers ever, where Kim Jong sings "I'm So Lonely." God, I love that movie, it's so good. They don't shy away from anything, and nothing is out of bounds when it comes to what they'll tackle. And I wish more media adopted the same mentality as South Park. Instead of removing episodes of old TV shows because they're now problematic, which is a real thing by the way, and it's so dumb. Panderverse is set to tackle the concept of race-swapping legacy characters for modern audiences. And apparently Cartman will be dealing with a nightmare involving the dangers of artificial intelligence. If I had to guess, the entire episode is inside Cartman's head, otherwise how Cartman becomes a strong black female character, is otherwise going to have a lot of explaining to do, and who knows what funny yet stupid way they'll justify it. But this is South Park, the same property that has you killing aborted Nazi fetuses in a clinic in Stick of Truth, who also run rampant and kill government agents. At one point in Stick of Truth, you can even fight the monstrous aborted fetus of Khloe Kardashian, which is amazing. But then you have articles like this one from AV Club titled, "There's a new South Park event teaser and God, we're already so tired." AV Club goes on to say that allegations by fans that companies cynically use diversity to push wokeness is ridiculous. And they say the entire concept of the Panderverse gives them a headache from how dumb it is. First off, yeah, it is dumb, but that's not South Park's fault. In fact, what they're doing here is bloody amazing, and I think the response from fans on social media show that if anything, people are enthusiastic about this upcoming special because of how tired they are of the nonsense. Places like AV Club or Breitbart are mad that South Park of all things is shining a light of exposure on this topic, because they know deep down that the virtue signaling of race swapping, like making Cartman a black woman, which I can't lie is prime real estate for some insane comedy, just doesn't sit right with them. But here's the thing, and I want everyone to understand this. The reason why South Park can get away with so much stuff when others would get cancelled for even attempting a tenth of what they do is because of a simple concept, which is that as long as what you're doing is actually funny, you can literally get away with anything. South Park is able to make fun of anyone and everything regardless of political sides because they're actually funny. Not in the late night show fake funny kind of way where audiences are instructed when to laugh by command, or awful woke comedians who just say conservatives are evil and then they expect rousing applauses in return. South Park, like comedians like Dave Chappelle, can't be cancelled because their audiences love them and they're actually authentically funny. It also helps that South Park masterfully hides any of its insane antics or stories behind the guise of 4th grade children. And while a full-grown adult man might get in trouble if he calls a fat woman fat, if a kid walks up to a fat chick and says, "Damn, you fat as hell," nobody can do anything. Because they're kids, and it's a brilliant 4D chess move in South Park's favor that essentially allows them to get away with literally anything. Like how you can give Randy Marsh, a biological man, an abortion and stick of truth by paralyzing his balls and then sucking poop out of his ass. That's ridiculous, but it's hilarious because it's a kid doing it and South Park is actually funny. Or how South Park has tackled concepts like trans women in women's sports, and showed a ripped dude literally beating women half to death to show how unfair it is, and yet again, they're still not cancelled. These dudes have such big balls on them, they even ship Satan with Saddam Hussein. Like if you ever needed proof that South Park legitimately does not give a shit, this is all the proof you need. What I really dislike about today's, well, everything, is how media companies and corporations have deliberately gone out of their way to create echo chambers and protected segregated groups. Basically, you can laugh, poke, and insult a straight white person all you want, but the moment that same joke is hurled at someone who identifies as non-binary, or whatever other hundreds of genders they so desperately want you to believe exist, now suddenly it's a problem. Anyone a part of these protected groups, whether you're part of the LCD TV rainbow people or got called ugly once and now you're non-binary, these corporations have deemed it hate speech if you poke fun at them. But all that ends up doing is make these protected groups feel as if they can get away with anything. And it also kind of turns these people into what I can only describe in video game terms, which is that they are all basically glass cannon builds. No defense, very low health points, and just tons of inflammatory attack boosted to maximum. They can hurt you, they can insult and dogpile, but the moment you give them a fraction of what they do back at them, boom, they shatter into pieces and they cry foul. That's why I'm glad South Park is calling these people out. Because seeing Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny race swapped into Latino, Black, and Asian women proves how absurd Hollywood has been of late. Because once these weirdos who champion this sort of nonsense are presented with the absolutely absurd image of 4 white junior high kids being replaced with strong women of color, there's no argument or mental gymnastics that'll get them to justify why the things that are happening are anything but absurd. It's sort of like how recently DC Comics writer Mags Visaggio revealed how they tried to turn Superboy into a transgender Connor Kent, but ended up failing because DC Comics wouldn't allow it. Mags' only other work of somewhat fame is the show Vagrant Queen, which starred a strong black woman of color who fought against the patriarchy. Gee, that sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Well, Mags showed on Twitter their master plan to create Skyrocket, a trans girl version of Superboy which never came to be. In Mags' big push to make Skyrocket a reality, the idea was to have Superboy become disillusioned with his place in the world after learning he's a clone of Superman. And the idea was to have Superboy find a magical bullshit rod, enter an ancient chamber, and voila, he comes out the other side a woman. And it doesn't help that when you look at Skyrocket and the creator of the character, it's so blatantly a self-insert. Mags wanted to insert themselves into a major franchise the same way other creators have with I Am Not Starfire, Velma, and more. Because these creators can't make anything that doesn't represent them and their ideals to a T, even down to how they look. Mags also believes making Superboy into a trans woman would somehow boost sales of the comic, when we already know it would do anything but the opposite, and this is why stuff like South Park's Panderverse pisses people like this and others off. Because it's showing them the ridiculous truth behind their delusions and framing it in such a way that no whataboutisms or mental gymnastics they perform can outmaneuver the cold hard truth that what you're seeing these days is nothing but lunatics running the asylum. The only way Connor Kent could be a trans Superboy would be if South Park's creators made an episode exploring the idea only to make fun of it. But to do that would piss people like Mags and others off even more because it wouldn't go the way they wanted to. Sort of how the Marvels is projecting to earn way less than the original Captain Marvel did in its opening weekend. The Marvels is actually projected to earn 42% less than the Eternals did when that released, and the Eternals was a box office flop for Disney, so this is really bad. But again, look at the cast, and right away it reminds you immediately of, you guessed it, South Park. This is why these things don't work, because they're only being done to push nonsense. The Marvels is currently tracking to earn $50 to $75 million domestically. which when you compare that it had a ballooning budget due to reshoots being closer to around $300 million, there's no way this movie will make its budget back. And if you adjust for inflation, if the Marvels makes anything less than $75 million in the domestic box office weekend, it will officially be the lowest opening for a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in history. But again, if you look at the Marvel's cast and its villain and all of that, it doesn't take a genius to see why audiences don't really care about this movie. And this is why South Park's Panderverse event is probably going to smash records in viewership. Because people are tired of the nonsense of Hollywood, and there's nothing Marvel can do for the Marvels or DC could gain by pushing a trans Superboy that would result in anything but money lost and what's left of fans walking away. When everything is inclusive, everything is diverse, and the quality of something is secondary to checking off lists, that's how you end up with these travesties, and it's why for South Park anyway, what they're doing here is an easy choice for them. Because the comedy will write itself, because when real life is already a parody at this point, this should be one of the easiest slam dunks for South Park ever. They barely have to even try. A black woman Cartman enough will make me laugh just looking at it. It's brilliant. The other side of South Park's impending Panderverse is artificial intelligence, which of course is one of the biggest threats to our way of life and how many people earn money and, stay employed. Hell, the entire writer's strike was primarily because studios wanted to push AI so badly into their projects that South Park tackling this concept makes sense too, since recently eagle-eyed fans have pointed out how Disney is already implementing AI models into their shows. And the results are hilariously bad. Here, take a look.
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god! What is that?
As you can see in Disney's show Prom Pact, they're already placing AI models into shows in order to not pay background actors. The results look like absolute dog shit. I mean, come on dude, these look like Sega Genesis level graphics. Maybe even then that's too generous, like this just looks so bad. But this is what studios are pushing, and South Park tackling this makes total sense. Because the threat of AI will ruin everything creatively driven and then some if it runs amok. And very recently you have background actors who were in Gladiator 2, which is filming right now as of the making of this video, who've claimed their likeness has been scanned without their consent. The extras were told the scanning would help Gladiator 2's production team fill out the gaps in crowds, and the extras felt as if they couldn't say no for fear of being fired, so people are already being taken advantage of. And if I had to guess, South Park's episode will end up being that the strong female versions are all artificial intelligence designed in a simulation for some company to determine whether audiences are receptive to race-swapped legacy characters. Like it's all just one giant experiment. Even in the upcoming Hunger Games movie Songbirds and Snakes, they released production stills of the movie, and dude, come on. Here's a picture of a crowd of people in the new Hunger Games. Do you see what's wrong with it? Let me help you by zooming in and boom. There you go. They're not even trying anymore, dude. They have people cut in half in Hollywood movies. They are literally copy and pasting humans like they're pixels on a screen. You can't make this up. But it is important to remember that whenever South Park makes a special, it's never for some pointless reason. They very specifically choose something that is interwoven into the culture of its time, and they explore it in a way that allows them to have fun with it. Like when they did the World of Warcraft episode, or the one where they go to the future in post-COVID and explore South Park where the kids are adults now. So the general rule to companies who want to avoid the wrath of Matt Stone and Trey Parker is that if you don't want South Park to shit all over you, stop doing shitty things. And if you do just that, things like this won't be brought up on such a massive platform like South Park. But it's too late now. The gates are opened, and hopefully they throw everything they have at the woke mindset. I also wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see more of the female versions of these characters, cause if Twitter is anything to go by, people are really enjoying the designs, which is good I guess, but also really weird, but that's the internet for you. But as you can see, what South Park is doing here is exposing how messed up Hollywood and the entertainment industry is. And I, for one, am incredibly excited to see how they dunk on them all when the episode airs October 27th. Because woke race swaps are pointless. People are not just data to be fed into algorithms, and until creators respect the source material they're making, we'll have to count on South Park and creators like yours truly to continue dunking on these people until things change. But until then, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think as always. Subscribe for more in the future, like the video, and remember to use my G Fuel code if you want to support the channel. You'll get 20% off your order if you do. Thanks to my patrons. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.